Hello!
Welcome to Also Driven, and we're on the beautiful island of Lanzarote with
A Dacia Jogger. We are here to test drive the new Dacia Jogger. We have wanted to get our hands on a Jogger for a very long time. It's Jim's favourite kind of current car. And so we thought, let's actually see what Jim makes of it in the real world. And me, but I'm actually more interested in what Jim has to say about it in a minute. And we've driven this for a few days now. I haven't driven it as much as Jim has, but I find it's very easy to live with, I think would be my ultimate kind of takeaway from this. It is all the car that anyone could possibly ever need in terms of size, performance, carrying capacity. But as you can tell, it is a tiny bit jerky. Some of it is my left-hand drive driving with the right hand operating the manual gearbox, which I'm not used to. This has a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine delivering 100 horsepower. Count them. Although it's definitely not slow, it happily keeps up with all the traffic that you would possibly want. It will blast you up a hill with no difficulty. It still feels like it's working hard to deliver that power, especially with the air conditioning on. It's got a lot of guts. I mean, that is a nice amount of power there. I mean, you don't really want any more power than this. It just doesn't feel silky smooth delivering it because it's got, because it's got that 3-cylinder kind of thrum that you're not used to. It just always sounds a little bit harsh. The other thing that is a little bit clunky about it is the gear change itself. It's kind of like you know which gear it's going into. It's quite positive, but it's not pleasant. It's kind of hard to describe it. It just kind of, it's as if someone has said, you need a gearbox on that car, here's a gearbox, it has gears. It doesn't have a beautifully slick action to go into the gears. It just kind of goes there, and that's it.
But that gearbox is probably shared across a dozen other random
I'm
cars.
sure it is.
So it's not really anything to do with it being a budget vehicle.
Not at all.
It is just that it's quite unsatisfactory.
It's functional.
It's functional.
Yes, it's functional. I think what we need to now talk about is what we like about the Dacia Jogger.
What do we like about the Dacia Jogger? I like, some of the stuff we already covered. I like the fact that it doesn't have too much tech. Yes, the keyless entry can be a bit weird at times, but the actual tech in the car is very simple. The touchscreen's very easy to use. It automatically connects to Android Auto every time I get in the car. The air conditioning has knobs, which you can turn. It's not built into the touchscreen. We have very light and direct steering. Not an awful lot of feel from it, but I don't really think there's very many cars these days that do have a lot of feel from their steering. Oh, okay, right. Other things that we like about the Jogger is obviously the space. Your partner is obviously a wheelchair user, and we found that absolutely fantastic because he can actually sit in the back of the car.
Yes.
We can actually put the wheelchair in the boot without having to fold it down.
Yeah, I've never seen that happen on a car before.
Yeah,
that's pretty satisfying.
It is massive back there. So this is the 5-seat version. It does have the mountings in the floor, so you can add the seats at a later date, but it comes with the partial shelf cover, so we can actually cover up our luggage which is in the boot, which is quite nice for a vehicle this size. What else do we like about it? I like the styling. The styling's very cool. It's a really huge vehicle.
Yeah.
For its super mini platform. It is really, really huge.
One of the things I noticed with this car is that it does feel like two separate cars. So the front here feels like a reasonably cramped super mini, but as soon as you go into the back, you have an elevated seating position, and you just feel like you're in a totally different car to the people who are in the front. It's quite strange.
Yeah.
But that is what it is. It is
but
a super mini.
It does
like
do a much better job of welding the two cars together than, say, something like the Skoda did. Which Skoda was that again?
Was that the Roomster?
Roomster, yes. Yeah. Which literally looked like two cars had been cut and shot.
I agree with you. I like the styling. It's got the step up in the same way as the Roomster does, but it just does it in some much better way.
Yeah. And a little bit more like Discovery.
Or a Matra Rancho. Not quite as iconic.
Not quite as iconic, although you do peer very sort of like, slightly at the Matarancio, you can see it's Talbot van.
Yeah, and that's the thing
bases
with this.
very
you
quickly.
Can see, and the Matarancio looks like a rugged vehicle, but actually it's a little 1100 Simca.
Yeah, true.
And the same way as this looks like a big rugged vehicle, but actually it's a 1 litre Sandero
Yeah, true.
or Clio.
Although the engine is used across quite a lot of cars. I mean, you get this engine in a Mercedes. The A-Class uses this engine as well,
Okay.
which is quite surprising. Yeah, which
Didn't know
also
that.
does make you feel quite smug when you pull up beside someone who's paying £300 a month on a PCP, and you're kind of going, "It's the same car. It's just got nicer plastic on the dashboard."
Well, I don't know. I like the plastic on this dash. I like the rubber. I like the fabric here. I think it's really nice. This fabric that goes along the length of the car.
So, what do you make of it?
I like it. I would have one, I think.
Okay.
I wish it was available with an automatic gearbox. I think it would probably make it a bit less jerky, but it would sap a bit of the power.
Yes, which already is quite heavily sapped by the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is one of the downsides of us not having had a relatively recent car. I mean, you've had your Tiguan was what, 2016?
18.
2018.
Yeah.
But was a diesel, which obviously now is the scourge of Satan. We're not allowed to have
Absolutely.
diesels anymore.
No.
But this very small engines with turbochargers, trying to do an awful lot of stuff is
Yeah.
all quite new to us.
Yeah, and it works incredibly well, and most of the time, in the sense that it is really very powerful. This is a 1 litre engine.
Yeah.
And the other 1 litre cars I've driven, like I have a 1 litre Ford Fiesta Mark III,
Yeah.
which, if you show it a hill, it kind of goes, no, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it kind of just keeps accelerating. There's plenty of torque.
Yeah.
The turbo clearly does what it's supposed to do and has got 100 horsepower.
Yep.
Um,
There's a but.
Yeah, maybe my but is the following. You always feel like it's slightly stressed. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
If it was a 2 litre diesel, you feel like it would
Yeah.
take all this in its stride. You could have the aircon on, you could have 7 people in it,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't feel stressed. Whereas this car, with the 3-cylinder noise that it comes and the tiny engine that is generating an enormous amount of horsepower, to be fair to it, feels like it is quite stressed most of the time. It's just a little bit incongruous with the kind of the style of the car, where it's big and chunky and capable, big chunky tyres, nice big roof rails. You feel like it's a go anywhere, do anything vehicle, and yet you have this tiny engine kind of screaming away at the front.
Yeah.
The infotainment system is really, really good. It's everything you need. It's got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, as you would expect. It's got lots of physical buttons.
And it's
which we
wireless
like.
too.
Wireless
which
CarPlay.
is not always the same, because the Fiat 500 does not have wireless CarPlay, I believe. I think you have to plug it in.
Correct. Talk to us about the key.
But this is just the bane of modern life, because for the rest of us, the idea of like having an actual key-shaped key, walking up to a car, pressing a button on it to open the doors, getting into the car, putting the key into the ignition and turn it, seems like this is not a huge monumental task that needed to be replaced by carrying around this thing, which, especially when you've got 2 drivers, you're constantly going, have you got the key, or have I got the key?
Yeah.
And then one person gets out of the car, and then it has an absolute fit of beeps and bongs.
Yeah.
And, well, it's actually not beeps and bongs.
And it's audible outside as well. The car hoots at you to say, "Oi, you've left the key out. The engine's running.
Yep.
Do something."
And again, it's our experience of less modern cars.
Yeah.
Where I think this was a problem that didn't need solved.
The other thing to note about the key, that I was going to say, is it's the locking that's quite weird. So as you walk up to the car, it unlocks, and as you walk away from the car, it locks.
Yes.
But because Jim had the key in his pocket the other day, because what else do you do with it? Because it's a keyless car, right? Keep it in your pocket. He filled the car up with petrol and then went in to pay, and as he walked away from the car locked itself. And Alan and I were inside, and we were a bit like, I'm not sure what to do now. If we open a door, will the alarm sound?
Yes.
What's going on?
Because there's a sensor.
Yeah, there's
for
a
the
sensor.
alarm.
So should we stay really still? I'm slightly scared that we're suddenly going to set off the alarm in this car. And who needs to walk away from their car and have it just automatically lock? Because you're just never 100% sure it's done it.
Yeah, because then you walk back to check that it has locked and it unlocks again.
Yeah.
This is the first time Dacia has had the most up-to-date platform in the Renault
True,
range.
yeah.
So obviously all of this stuff all comes with it. The engine
Yeah.
stop-start button, the keyless entry.
Yeah.
Although strangely enough, it does not get all of the safety tech that you would get on the Clio.
That's true.
But on the other hand, though, we're kind of not really fussed about that because,
Yeah.
again, both of us had experience of cars with lane assist and lane
Yeah.
warning. The Kona that I was driving in Wales recently, you went through like an Airbus style checklist of switching stuff off before you started driving it because it just could not keep up with the fact that some roads were just one lane.
Yeah.
So obviously it was like there was passing points and things like that, and it really just was not helping very well.
Losing it, I suspect.
Yeah, and also the fact that the auto steering was kind of doing some sort of stuff that was like, you know, driving you into a hedge as opposed to actually staying on the road because it was picking up markings and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
anyway, yes, so yes, lack of tech is good on this.
Yes.
Coming very close to the end of our time with the Dacia, I kind of found a few other things with it. One, there is a button on the dashboard which basically detunes the engine, which is one of the reasons why we felt it was so down on performance. It's marked Eco and it's right beside the air conditioning, so we assumed it was something to do with the air conditioning, but it knocks about sort of 15-20% off the actual output of the engine, takes it down to 70 something horsepower. A lot of people who have bought new cars every 3 years probably don't notice this. The likes of me and Siôn, who drive a lot of cars from like 20-30 years ago, can actually see a decline in the quality of driving. Engines are not particularly refined. Steering doesn't have an awful lot of feel to it. Yes, the build quality is great. They don't rattle. If we have an accident, you know, it will protect us. So this does have a very low Euro NCAP score, but it's going to be a lot better than what I have in my Fiat Cinquecento. But it's the other things, the actual, you know, they have become white goods. They basically get you from point A to point B, and you can understand why car salesmen say that 80% of buyers don't test drive cars anymore because they're not that much fun to drive. It's really kind of disappointing. Economy is again another thing with it. I mean, low 30s. Okay, yes, it's a big car. It's got lots of space. You can sit 7 people back there. Well, you can sit 7 people from here to back there, but it could be better. I'd love to try the hybrid. I'd love to see what you can do with it. It has 140 horsepower, and it's an automatic. And obviously, with the air conditioning system being electrically powered, you probably don't get that whole sort of hesitation hiccup thing that was kind of driving Siôn and I crazy when we were driving it. So to sum up, it's a win-win from us. Few reservations, but I think we definitely would buy one.
Yeah, I think so.
I could even live with the electric handbrake, which again is one of those situations which was a solution looking for a problem.
Yes, very true.
Doesn't need an electric handbrake.
No, although it does have the holdy function, which is quite useful. So it holds for like 5 seconds on the brake once you let go of the brake.
But my Fiat Panda had that as well.
Well, yeah.
And it didn't have an electric handbrake.
Okay, fair enough.
So
Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this little jaunt in our Lanzarote Dacia Jogger.
it has
Yep.
been a perfect companion for this week.
It
We've
really
really
has.
enjoyed it.
We've loved it, and we're now going to go and take a dip in the pool in January. See ya.
Bye. Can I stop waving now?
Mhm.